Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Morrill. This is going to be my CGT425 project, Prototype 1. And so what I did for this is I did card-based combat um, in an interesting way. And this is based on the game Shroom and Gloom, which is an indie game on itch.io. Super cool, double deck builder roguelike. Check it out. Um, so let's get started. So how the game looks and how it works. This is not my game. This is Shroom and Gloom. So there are cards that the player has. They have their combat deck and they have the out of combat deck. The player has like mana denoted with the little blue circle right there with the number in it. So the cards themselves have a mana cost, which is in the top left. They have the name, the image, the type of card that it is, and then the description. So the player has a limited amount of mana, like I said. Mana is also in the version that I did. The player just has like 10 mana, so then I could do whatever with that. And the player can have as many cards in their hand as they desire in Shroom and Gloom. But in mine, I kept that, but I originally had a different plan for that. Originally, I was only going to make it 4 cards per in your hand at a time, and you'd automatically draw cards if you had less than 4 cards every 10 seconds. So that was based on a book. So that kind of part was based on a book, which was Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 6, The Eye of the Bedlamp Bride. Um, Very cool card deck building mechanic in that game, or in that book, sorry. Uh, and I thought that'd be cool to kind of base that off of the book as well. But with mine, there are 3 main types of cards. There's attacks, monsters, which I call summons in the game, and then there's utility cards. And so different than Shroom and Gloom, most of the cards in Shroom and Gloom, they don't really have a full-on effect, or they don't summon anything in 3D space. It's more you drag and drop the card on the enemy, and then it does the damage. So mine will actually like do things in 3D space. And so let's get right into it with the demo. Go here. Um, so I kind of just have this demo scene set up, and I'll show what I have so far. So there are some little sound effects that I just added. And so basically, by overlapping a card, you draw it or you bring it into your hand. So like that's a summon cubes, and it's there. So in the top right of each card, you have the mana cost. In the top left, you have name of the card, and then you have the description, and then you have in the bottom right, you have the type of card that it is. Um, yeah, and so to use a card, you just click. Each card, how I do it is they have a type, which is of a structure, or it's a structure, or it's an enumerator. Sorry, I'm getting my things mixed up. So it's an enumerator, and so you just put the card type in there, and then you set it in the data table. Um, and then from there, you give it a function in the card-based blueprint, which we'll get to in a second, and then you can just do all the logic from there, and it makes doing each card separately really pretty easy. And so I was able to do quite a bit of cards here. So I have, we'll start with lightning, because lightning's neat. I made little particle effects for this and stuff too. So lightning, you just shoots a little laser beam. These guys have health too. These are just dummies. And then fireball, I give it a really big explosion, but it also knocks enemies back. And so there's a fireball that just explodes like that. There's a magic missile which traces. I'll draw a couple more of them actually. It traces or it follows a target using a homing projectile thing. So if I like, there's not a great like moving target. That was my moving target, but it's gone now. But it'll like follow a moving target if you shoot it. So if I shoot it at them, it just. Oh yeah, I guess you can kind of see as I moved. Yeah, it'll always home in on the actor it's shot at. Um, and then so there's flee, which is really interesting. So by clicking this, you're teleported anywhere 2,000 to 4,000 blocks away from, or not blocks, Unreal units away from the player. So if I click, it'll shoot me out here. What those lines are is those are all the failed tests. So how the flea works, I'll explain it when I show the blueprint here in a second. Um, but it's really interesting. And then so you have your summons, which just have the summon cube, which he's running away. But if he just sits there. If you summon the summon and have your reticle on an actor, it'll follow to the actor. Or when you have your summons active, you can just middle mouse button to an actor, and it should just crawl its way over. And then using C, you can summon all your summons back to you. So this is a summon size up, which if you aim at an active summon and use it, it just increases its size. Yeah. So let's actually dive into some of the code. We can look at Flea, because Flea is very interesting. So how Flea works, so before I get to that actually, how all the cards are used. So each card has this card data structure, has an effect that's an enumeration, and then I switch on that enumeration, then I have a function for each different card type. And so each of these different effects is its own function that does something, right? So the lightning calls this function get line trace, and then I have it set that variable so then I can use that for all sorts of stuff. But anyways, gets the line trace, spawns the lightning at the location, and then it starts that lightning, which that lightning is its own separate blueprint which does some other things. But I really wanted to show the flea because the flea is interesting. So the flea pulls the actor location of the card and sets that as previous location, and then so it finds the teleport location, which is this function, but really it's just pulling a point anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 blocks away or Unreal units away from the player in any direction. And then so it'll spawn a teleport check there, which is this actor, and then it'll check the ground, which is a function on the teleport check, which just shoots a line trace straight down. And then it'll report back if it was a blocking hit, and then it'll get the ground location and add 100 just to accommodate for player collisions. And so once it does that, let's go back to card base. It'll say if it was true, okay, go ahead and teleport the player to that new location, and then destroy the card. Destroy the teleport check, and then return true. If it doesn't find ground, then it'll destroy the teleport check and then try again. And so that's what you saw. All those pillars of line traces is because those are all failed checks where the actor got destroyed. Yeah, and so to get one of the big things that was a big struggle was getting all these cards to be smooth, like how each of them like smoothly rise up, and then however when you use one, they'll like smoothly pull back together. So it's not just like snapping. So how I do that is actually, this took forever just because I kept running into errors. But in the card base, there is, oh sorry, it's in the card holder, my bad. There's this beautiful, card holder is just the actor component which you attach to the main player, and then it'll do all the stuff that makes the cards appear how they do. So this beautiful event is called lerp to new locations. So I'm using linear interpolate, and I'm pulling all these new locations, which I get from here. It looks jumbled, but this is probably the cleanest I could get it, if we're being so honest, without breaking it down into a whole bunch of smaller functions, which I probably could have done. But this doesn't even need to be there actually. Well, I'll keep it there just in case I broke something on accident. But anyways, so it pulls this refresh cards. It'll get these new locations, essentially. It'll add a new location, which is based on a whole bunch of stuff, just calculations. So you divide the cards to get the cards on both sides, and then yada 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 yada. And so lerp to new locations just makes it so all those cards move smoothly in between their old location or their current location and their new location. Um, and so yeah, that's really all that does. And it took a while to get that right just because there were a lot of small bugs that kept happening. But yeah, I'll run through it just one more time briefly. So you can pick up all these cards. You have all these different abilities to do. Um, yeah, and so the man is in the top left, in case you couldn't tell. So let's get back to the presentation. If it'll let me get there, hold on. There we go. So I had a lot of fun designing this system. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and it's very easy to expand upon. Um, so that being said, I'd like to see what I could do for future prototypes with this same project. Um, I love working on a good personal project, and this would be a great one to keep working on because I've had a lot of fun and I was finally able to get it pretty polished. Um, and so I also experimented with the Niagara particle system for a lot of stuff, and uh, honestly, I learned a lot there, and it was pretty easy to use. I also learned a lot about materials and how to make that like cool, like fiery fireball, and then the cool, like lightningy lightning, right? And so that was cool. Super easy to work with as well, just using the data tables. So what went wrong? It took some time, and I went a little beyond what I had initially planned scope-wise. I ended up adding probably more cards than I. Well, mainly I was just going to focus on having the hand work, and then I added all the cards, and then I just got really invested in it. So I had a bug with some of the collisions that was quite annoying to figure out for a while, but I ended up solving that just by adding a specific collision class and then doing some other things. And then making things look smooth was a nightmare. Hours of work just spent trying to get collision or the cards to smoothly go from one place to another. But I got it done eventually. And then so what I learned, like I said, Niagara particle system, I messed around with that and I got some good experience using that. So I've never used a radial force component before, but it's great for explosions and knocking physics actors. I didn't know that existed before this project, and so I found that, and I was, huh, great, and it worked perfectly with my things, how I wanted it to. And then again, using the card or making the card holder as an actor component. I've only done this like with one other thing in the past, but uh, it really just saves time and it doesn't make the player blueprint look super duper messy. And then homing projectiles with the projectile movement component. I hadn't done that before. And so that was neat to tinker around with the magic missile. So yeah, overall, I had a really great experience with this prototype. Thank you.